It's called Scream or Never Minding by Lia Purpura. There are things I'm supposed to never mind. Never mind means silent and agreed upon, and that I must want more than anything to get through the day, and so should assent to go along. Glance, turn the page. Turn away from a scream, the place from which a scream would rise if cultivated by attention paid. Subjects one might avoid: ruined land, ruined animals, because the issues of the day can begin to feel old and people get tired of feeling bad. When I was a child, I was not daunted. I let myself get completely exhausted. Never minding makes it possible to do things like eat what you want, talk about simple daily things. A scream is not speech. Edvard Munch's The Scream was recently sold for nearly $120 million. He called it a cry from the heart and wrote about it to a friend that I was being stretched to the limit. Nature was screaming in my blood. I was at a breaking point. But as a gesture performed over and over on coffee mugs, tote bags, keychains, and cards, it's much reduced, quieted so as to be understood. Seeing the scream again and again, we agreed not to. Instead, we refer to. Consider all we throw away. The tin my mints came in could do so much work, could be put to good use and serve again, holding buttons, coins, pills. Then fewer tins would have to be made. Imagine, though there's no need to do this, this is all real, how many things are made to be thrown away. You can't care about them. Their brevity isn't meaningful, like, say, a dart with a poisoned tip, a spear, an arrowhead, objects whose single use sustains. Yes, I understand making tins is a job, a way of making a living. People have jobs making trash for a living. That subs or heroes or grinders, whatever they're called in a given place, are sold by the inch. That drinks are called bottomless. That for a set price you can eat all night, stack barbecue ribs 10 inches high if you balance just right, walking back to your seat. What a deal that is. If more is the measure, if the point is a lot, best not to fuss over the origins of stuff. And two, if origins are questionable, you'd want the distance between farm and table to be as vast as possible. Vast is stable. Ribs are tasty. I mean a factory farm, a concentrated animal feeding operation, CAFO. An acronym is a form of speed, a way to fly past the origin of an idea. Concentrate was my favorite cereal as a kid. I liked it too for its double meaning. A dense substance, a command to think hard. Here, though, concentrated means 20 hogs in a space the size of your bedroom, 10 chickens in a 2-foot square pen. That's an area the size of this page for each chicken. Under such conditions, animals are driven mad. I probably don't have to be so direct here. I'm sure you've heard a lot about this. Once, a bandwagon was used for exactly that purpose, to carry musicians in a procession. To jump on one now means to join a successful enterprise. So many forms of success depend on never minding, on taking the steps 2 at a time up to the wagon and climbing on for the ride. Or think of riding a tide. A force absorbs you, purpose transports, a shared mind washes over. At the edges, though, near jetties and inlets, in dips and depressions, little tide pools settle and still, and that's where the interesting stuff collects. You have to get down on your knees to see all the briny, colloidal, fast-swimming creatures that at a distance look only like murk. I want to think about number 419. What might seem like veering around here isn't, and trying to lay in how many times a day and in how many ways a person, I, might turn away. Or else what? Stay and scream? Solastalgia is a very good word, made by combining the Latin solacium, comfort, and the Greek root algia, pain. Philosopher Glenn Albrecht created it to define the pain experienced when the place one loves and where one resides is under assault. I'm working on a word for the loss of fellow feeling for a creature and the strange emptiness that loss leaves in its place. Zoosympenia might do. Zoo, animal, plus sim, feeling, plus penia, loss. But first, before words, a feeling must root. For me, it was winter, late afternoon, when eye level with the stove, beautiful old chambers, I'd set things in motion. The oven door has a hook lever, which, fixed between 2 orange dials, made it into the face of an owl. It was possible to come around the corner, unseen, inch up to the bird, flip its beak, hear it talk, touch its ever-open eyes, say hi in passing, or play in its gaze. Nearby was a horse in the linoleum. Horse's head, to be more precise, a little disconcerting, but like a ragged cloud shape in the sky, more a suggestion than a truncated thing. The horse had its own scent when I laid my head next to it. We talked in the morning. It was always ready. I also had a collection of bees, paper ones my mother cut from tuna cans and distributed on alternate weeks to me and my sister. We tossed them in the air and watched them sift down on the flowers we were. When I was 4, the world was ending. I wasn't certain. I just suspected it. It was 1968. The war was on. I had a dog, a monkey, a fox. I did not think of them as toys. If the world was a storm, I was an ark. I'll get to work on another word, too, something for the loss of relationships to singular objects due to an overabundance of them. How about aesthesoplegia? Aesthesio, sensation, plus plegia, paralysis. To understand an object's habits, its tricks, you have to live with it daily. A milk bottle, the one I grew up with, had a high, cinched waist and a full-skirted body, might let you take an illegal swig, but only if you used both hands. You might blue the last inch of milk by holding it up to the morning sun and tipping it almost horizontal. Endless abundance clobbers the chance for relationships. So, for example, if asked, would you like to help stop wrecking the earth? You'd say, of course, yes. If asked then to drink only from fountains and never again buy a bottle of water, well, it's hard to imagine giving up convenience, though what you get in return is the chance to learn the quirks of your local water fountains, the cold ones with high arcs, the calmer but warmer dribbly ones. You might choose to walk a bit further for the beautiful pebbly fountain, or make do with clever, slightly tin-flavored water, or you might carry your own collapsible cup. I had one as a Girl Scout, which when folded would be exactly the size of a tin of mints. Number 419 is a cow. That's a tag in its ear. There's a number 308 right behind it, a number 376, and a number 454, all jammed in the frame of the photo. This must be a mixed lot. If I stand back just a little, or rather hold the newspapers out at arm's length and unfocus a bit, the numbers fade and the cows are wearing bell-shaped earrings. If I shut my eyes and shut many more things, doors in the brain as if windows in cold, I conjure up Heidi in green fields and milk pails. I can hear the little cowbells tinkling and see the concrete outside my door roll up like a rug, cartoon style, revealing the sleeping pasture below, which reconstitutes in sun and spring with fat flowers back to life. It feeds all the cows on endless, rollicking, hand-colored cartoon greens. A Starry Night mug. Mona Lisa fridge magnets. Cézanne wrapping paper. 419 is bending to eat. Not grass, but corn. I guess I should say she's eating what she's made to eat, which likely includes swine manure, poultry feathers, cement dust, and plastic for roughage. All cheaper and more efficient than grass, easily supplied in confined spaces, though contributing, as you might imagine, to conditions that justify prophylactic antibiotics. Let me just do a description here. Establish a scene. 419 is bending to eat. Her tags are clearly visible, as is the patch of white between her eyes, which are good at seeing blue purples and yellow greens, and not so adept at the red-brown-pink spectrum. And there in relief against the white chest of 308, the fringe of 419's black eyelashes, like a girl's, like my son's in sleep. Once you really see a thing, even briefly and slight as a lash, it's hard to unsee. This summer I saw 2 sandpipers dig for crabs at the edge of the shore with long pointed beaks. When the waves rolled out, one dug, picked, and ate very quickly. The other plucked its catch and ran straight to a dry spot higher up and took its time pecking every bit of meat. One found more crabs, but ate each only partly. The other stuck with a single crab and minced it completely. One was not more adept, or the other wiser, just that there was undeniably the inclination each had. It was impossible to miss each preferred a particular method. Each had an idea, a disposition, a sensibility, an imagination. Endless starry nights wreck time. Great waves get drained, and sunflowers dimmed by repetition. What Munch once made of a sensation at dusk, his friends having left him after a walk, his brief pause on a path and his sense of despair, is no longer a space where you and the painter might linger together. Now it's a trinket, a t-shirt, a necklace, a thing you stop seeing that stands in for. It's a joke, a tactic, a way to connect at the office, in meetings, which make everyone want to scream. Why tame the original moment? Why encourage skipping so quickly past? Why reduce so much to mild laughter? A while back, inflatable scream dolls were all the rage. They're on your desk or life-size, a bald, angsty friend who'd commiserate, lift a beer with you at the end of the day. Imagine him on the label of a microbrew. The color's amped, the border crisp. A beer called Scream, Scream Lager, Scream Ale. I'd like to think the painting's new owner wanted back to a time before the image refracted, to park a chair near the original sky, the fat blue scream pressing in like a wave, the bridge's red rail like an icon poker, the gash of sky marbled and fleshy, and to be, as everything was, clouds, air, nerves, smudgy suggestion of boats, overcome. I'm hoping he wanted to clear some space, mid-colors eddying fast and draining, so a scream might speak singularly to him. To own a thing in a more perfect way, go into training. Adopt the gestures of a beloved friend you rarely see, the way she holds a thought in her hands and twists it into place in the air. Study how her fingers flare when describing something unjust, or point beyond which she won't be pushed, so you too can shape ideas in air and close up the distance between you. Or, paring a spot of mold from cheese, take up a worn, well-sharpened knife and cutting slowly towards your body, let the blade come to rest against the flesh of your thumb. And in this, the old-fashioned way, freehand, with no cutting board, spend a few moments with your grandmother again. Some forms of ownership don't require the purchase of anything. I'm meant to forget that certain very basic gestures, fingers on toggles, are a satisfaction and to never mind their passing. Am I alone in wanting to turn and adjust faucet handles, repair fixtures with a wrench and a smear of putty, yank a towel on a roller to produce a clean spot? Now you need only wave your wet hands at a sensor or move around until lasers kick in, or often don't, and then there you are, swaying dumbly alone in your stall, a scene very different from, say, a man dancing naked, as William Carlos Williams wrote, grotesquely before my mirror, waving my shirt round my head and singing softly to myself, I am lonely, lonely. A loneliness so vital, it's worth celebrating, so human, it's lyrical, so physically achy, it calls forth the drive to make something of it. Or how about this? You've got a drill with a bad battery, a nickel-cadmium heavy metal thing you want to recycle. Opening the drill takes a good 10 minutes with tiny screwdrivers. The drill itself is just fine. The gears enmeshed and sharp, the motor precise in its cylindrical compactness, and nestled within its casing, all the parts good, all able to perform. But the battery pack costs way more than the drill. It's specialized and hard to find. It doesn't even exist without the drill, so you throw the whole thing away. A thing designed with a subsystem that quits, with no way of keeping the perfect remains. An object lost to itself at the outset. No sense of a tool becoming, through long use, a hand's extension. No hint of its shape responding to a body, such a fit being intimate. I'm not supposed to be upset by any of this. Childhood's a long training in never minding all you're losing, everything that's falling, crashing, being taken. In the diamonded, rhinestoned late 1970s, most things were too bright or tight or lucite, and I wasn't learning. I turned away from, here's a good bygone word, the bottom, and instead toward, well, mostly a dream of wildness. Long Island's marshes long filled in and blacktopped for parking lots, malls, levee towns. I spent much time prospecting for bits. One summer, I rose at dawn and gathered dandelions from all the front yards, washed and sugared them, added yeast, water, lemon. Then for the next few weeks, set to racking off my dandelion wine. I was reading Bradbury's story at the time. I wore flannel shirts and overalls, work boots and braids. In love with my bike and my dog, I read outdoor survival guides. I looked for occasions to use the word pemmican. I wrote out the steps for tanning hides, the native way with animal brains or ash or acorns. I heard mall as the tool, not as a bobbly, overlit place. What others called wild in me I knew to be a fending off, a countering, a minding greatly. In the October section of the Rapid City Journal, I recently read about a couple bonded by their adventures, their 20 safaris, their 30-year marriage. A few of their tales were gathered therein in the scary dark of a rainforest when etc., which ended in the pure joy of being together outdoors. But it was the front page photo that held me. On the very bright walls, head after head after head after head, these 50 mounts in the living room alone. And how strange the couple looked alive among them. I remember the busts of Beethoven and Mozart and Haydn and Liszt and Chopin in my elementary school's music room. I couldn't make any sense of them. A pianist with no arms, a joyless composer who wrote Ode to Joy. Their limbless bodies in marbly coldness, stunted and chopped. I knew a head with a bit of neck was meant to be never-minded, another version of how things are done. The men, canonical, the sculptures, memorial, a cliche of sight. I understood. Still, it was hard to see anything but severedness. You should know that the place in the scream where the figure stands is an actual road in Oslo, overlooking the bay where screams from the slaughterhouse and asylum converged. Munch's sister was locked in there, while he was free to walk with friends and think and listen and create. He wrote, I went along the road with two friends. The sun set. Suddenly the sky became blood, and I felt the breath of sadness, tearing pain beneath my heart. I stopped, leaned against the fence, deathly tired. Clouds over the fjord of blood dripped, reeking with blood. My friends went on, but I just stood there, trembling with an open wound in my breast, trembling with anxiety. I heard a huge, extraordinary scream pass through nature. You might try it. Anyone might. At the end of a day, finding yourself abruptly alone, since certain sounds cannot be unheard, certain images cannot be unseen. In that moment, when a bay might tilt or a sky drain and pin its red light hard to your chest, you might press your hands to your ears, at that spot where the world leaks in, wherever it happens, diner, store, street. There, in the moment, a scream originates. Try to make something of that.